Oh yeah, you started in Saint Germain, then you got to go out to Montmartre to go to the North Coast, and then it takes you all over Europe, just like Shadow Hearts Covenant. I mean, game of the year 2025 already.
Beautiful.
I'm in.
Love it.
I'm in. Love it.
Green light that.
Hello, and welcome to episode 154 of Rhythm Encounter, the RPG fan music podcast. I am your host, Mike Salbato, and we have a big episode for you today. Actually, we have two big episodes for you. We are here to discuss music of the year for 2024. But before we get into the details, I have a fantastic panel to introduce, starting with Hilary.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Pat is here because we can't do music of the year without Pat.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, and Gio.
Hi.
And Sollosi, can we talk about this coming out of retirement, or is it too soon for that?
I don't know. I think I've just discovered that I'm terrible at not podcasting when I say I'm not going to podcast anymore.
Well, I mean, for all of us and everyone listening, I'm really happy you're here. So
I'm happy to be here as well. Yeah.
Yay.
Yay.
He's addicted. He's sitting over there going, I can quit whenever I want.
So yeah, of course, as I said, we're talking about our favorite music of the year from last year. And as we usually do, everyone picked a few extra songs versus usual. So what we're going to do is actually break this into two episodes. So we'll have three of us with our picks today and some more in next week's episode. All right. Well, I think that's enough of an introduction. We all know what's going on here. Let's talk about some music. All right, so we are going to start with Pat. What are your three picks today for music of the year?
Yeah, I got three good ones. Starting with a song called "The World's Heartbeat" by Kenji Ito. And that is from SaGa Emerald Beyond, because of course I had to bring a SaGa game. After that, we got the Terapagos battle theme, the final battle from the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLC. That's composed by Toby Fox,
Nice.
alongside Go Ichinose and Rei Murayama. And then finally, we have Lantern&End from a mobile game that has reached its end of life, and that's SINoALICE. Composed by Keiichi Okabe, the leader of the Monaka sound team.
All right, fantastic. Let's go check them out, and we'll come back with our commentary.
All right, so those are my 3 picks. I gotta say, these were hard picks because for every one of these picks, I could have picked like 4 or 5 other songs that are like adjacent or similar. Like, I only wanted to bring one SaGa song, and so it was going to be the Reuniverse Volume 3, which actually has great music on it, or Romancing Saga 2 Remake, Revenge of the Seven, great music, or Emerald Beyond. And after some wrestling, I went with Emerald Beyond. I really like this track, The World's Heartbeat. There are a lot of great vocals and a bunch of different great vocalists on this 3-disc soundtrack. And this is Ayano Nonomura. She does more sort of operatic vocals. Interestingly, there's a note in the liner notes, I think of this album, though it might be in the liner notes of Reuniverse Volume 3, that Kenji Ito went to a baseball game, heard Nonomura singing the Japanese national anthem at the game in like 2015, and that's when they brought her on to do the theme song for SaGa Scarlet Grace, and then she's been doing music with the SaGa series ever since.
Oh wow!
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a wild story. I like this one because it's a non-lyrical vocal, right? It's just oohs and ahs. Mm-hmm. But you put like the sort of techno beat behind it. The arrangement by Tsutomu Narita is just like, to me, this is just sort of like top tier SaGa, and also very like Emerald Beyond kind of SaGa piece. Like, when you think about SaGa soundscapes, like Emerald Beyond very much seems to have a tie with SaGa Frontier in terms of like its willingness to mix like modernity / near future cyberpunk kind of stuff, and not just be fully sort of medieval high fantasy. Mm-hmm. And I feel like musically this taps into that. Yes. Right. I was thinking, Romancing Saga 4. Yeah, the original Game Boy trilogy obviously had time, future stuff, robots, and all that. Yeah, it's a good point.
My party was full of mutants and robots in that game.
I think I would do the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. I was just gonna ask. So, in the footage, and this is a little bit of an aside, but I have to know. In the footage that goes along with this, like for our little playlist, someone had a trumpet gun. Is that right?
That's correct.
I need to know about the trumpet gun.
Yeah, well, there's a tie-in. There's sort of a lot of the music in this game goes back to the scenario of Diva Number 5, who is like an android robot person who's like built also to be a pop star. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of like overlap between like music as weaponry, but it's not just like Edward's playing the harp and that somehow damages enemies. This is straight up like, oh no, music instruments can also be weapons.
So a little bit more like Ricardo's guitar machine gun in Shadow Hearts 3.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay,
and solid reference. I just
wanted to place it because I love, like, when I'm thinking about game music, I love thinking about how music and instruments show up in the game. So thank you.
Yep.
Just like all the flute in Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally.
I didn't take a ton of notes on this one, but I do like it. I really like the idea of also just starting this episode with, is this a boss battle or just a battle theme?
It seemed like it's an early boss battle theme.
Yeah, so it's a fun way to start. It has a really great like driving rhythm, and I like the string work in there. It just adds a really nice, a really cool like dramatic flair to it. So I really enjoy battle themes like that.
Yeah, and I like the slight maybe discontinuity, but maybe not, between the track title and the way the track sounds.
Yeah, I could see that. Like, it sounds like a more somber song based on title.
But it could also not be. Maybe the world is having a high pulse. Maybe it's stressed out.
The world's dying, Cloud.
It's multiverse-ish. sort of like, going back to our Game Boy reference, sort of like how you go to different realms in like the world tree in Saga 2. Final Fantasy 2. Yeah, you're sort of going through like different sort of discrete realms through the Emerald Beyond, which is sort of like the world between the worlds. And I believe this music plays when you're taking on certain story and scripted battles in that space.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. It might be used other places too, but I think the first time you hear it, it's certainly in that space.
Yeah, there is a sense of dread to it, but also a very, forward momentum beat that sort of communicates this is a battle theme with some stakes involved, at least is my understanding. But I just love the different voices in here. It goes from the electric guitar to strings to piano to that sort of the operatic lyrics-free voice that you mentioned earlier. It's it feels like a battle that is with impact. Like this is a battle track, but not a random battle track. Is what it communicates to me, knowing very little about the game itself of Emerald Beyond. But yeah, I mean, these character designs are wild. In the video you showed, the song is great. Now I'm 1% closer to trying a SaGa game that was made after the Game Boy era.
I'll take the 1%. I'll take it. We'll get you there.
Pat moving the needle a little bit for several people.
Barely.
Yeah. That's a win. That's a win.
Yeah, that's right. So this next one. Oh, sorry.
Gio? No. Actually, the only thing I have in my notes is like song good. Song good.
Okay. Song good. I agree.
Well, I like it.
Profound.
Okay. Because woefully I don't have much familiarity with SaGa, so
yeah.
But I thought that it's like a techno song because it's like a heartbeat. So I thought that the 4 on the floor thing was like that's the thing, that's the heartbeat.
Yeah, the sort of pulsing and the style of it for people who have played the first SaGa Frontier, it is a little bit like T260G's final battle music, which man, what was the name of that boss? The word heart was in that boss too.
I don't know. That's the only route I finished in that game too, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, that final battle music was also like this sort of like grandiose techno piece. They didn't have the vocals back then, but to me, these are actually kind of similar songs. So again, to me, the Emerald Beyond and SaGa Frontier 1 connection just feels very strong.
Nice.
So going to the next one. So Scarlet and Violet came out all the way back in late 22, but they wrapped up their DLC content in like January of 24, and the soundtrack wasn't published until February of 24 because the soundtrack was this 6-disc monstrosity that included all of the DLC music. After doing, Teal Mask and Indigo Disc, there is sort of a final story where you go deep, deep, deep into the depths of Area Zero, and you meet a fun little Pokemon critter who is the source of all the terastallizing phenomenon, and it's a tortoise named Terapagos. Or, no, it's not a tortoise, it's a turtle, like a sea turtle. And it's like Galapagos evolution, right? But with the terastallizing phenomenon. This song is really cool because it's a blend of 2 or 3 different themes. The most obvious one that you hear right away is the Area Zero theme that Toby Fox composed as the environmental music when you're traveling Area Zero, with the really cool sort of chanting vocals, very revelatory, feels good. And then Ray Murayama developed a separate boss battle theme that's used just a little bit earlier in the Area Zero content, and they kind of just mashed them up and made one of my favorite battle themes in a very long time. Might be my favorite Pokemon battle theme to date. Like, I just love this track so much.
I got the sense like that the song is also evolving. So like I feel like it's connected to Terapagos being like the thing that's like evolving Pokemon into like those crystal things, the terastallization.
Yeah,
because like I feel like the song's like never, it doesn't really repeat itself. Like it's always like turning into a new thing. And I was like wondering, and I was like wondering,
and the boss, it works well in game because the boss goes through multiple stages as well.
Perfect.
I could see that.
It was also working through different motifs because I heard the main theme of Scarlet Violet in there, and something that I don't know if it's only in this space, but I think I heard the Elite Four battle theme and the rival battle theme against Nemona. Like in there, the do 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 do, like it's it really is.
That's Go Ichinosi's like parts is the main theme and the rival battle theme. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it really did seem like it was an overture or a medley of sort of everything that you had gone to at this point, and because Terapagos by nature is kind of every Pokemon type at once. And sort of is the final challenge or one of the final challenges of the game. I mean, I'm not sure if Pecharunt counts, but
that's your mythical fun thing on the side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what was it? The teal mask sort of inverses the Momotaro myth, so that the ogre is misunderstood, and the pheasant, monkey, and dog are the villains, and so Pecharunt is basically like evil ghost Momotaro. It's a very very, very amusing reference. But anyway, but this song is full of amusing references because it really does feel like it's throwing as much Pokemon Scarlet Violet battle motifs as you can remember at you. And like Gio said, it keeps evolving and changing and does not have an identifiable loop. So I think there's a sense of finality to this theme that's appropriate for the Terapagos fight. And maybe it's because I'm from Virginia and Maryland. I always thought that terrapin was part of the etymology of Terapagos, but again, that could just be my dumb East Coast brain. So yeah, don't need to attach anything to that.
we can headcanon that in. I kind of like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
But there's definitely what you talked about with the medley. It's sort of a culmination aspect. We're bringing all of the experiences together into the big final thing. Which I don't think this is the first Pokemon game to do that. I think Sword and Shield had a moment like that as well, but I think it was done best thus far here. And again, Toby Fox, the Area Zero theme that he composed is just top tier, like on par with some of the best Undertale tracks, like just so good. I love it.
I really appreciate how, despite how it's changing and incorporating all these different things, it still kind of has this cohesive tone of like that exploration finally going to like the absolute depths of Area Zero or whatever it is and discovering something. Like, I really appreciate how it's managed to stay so like cohesive in tone, given everything else. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, me too. I didn't, this isn't going to shock anyone that I didn't finish a game, although at least some people might back me up on not finishing Scarlet or Violet. But, so I didn't finish Violet. So I recognize a little bit of this, but not the whole of it. So I'm glad everyone else had the more context. I love Final Battle or late game song that does that brings in different themes and different motifs. It really, really always just works for me. But even without the context, like I really enjoyed this one. It's more intense than I was expecting. Like I know it's like, oh, it's a Pokemon game, but I know like a lot of Pokemon games have like higher stakes than they did back in like Pokemon Blue. So no, it was a lot of fun.
Are you calling the Elite Four low stakes?
I mean, compared to like now where you have like things that like swallow entire worlds or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there aren't like in Pokemon Red and Blue, there weren't monsters emerging from other dimensions to destroy your world.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know. There's just Mewtwo.
If this, well, yes, I mean there was Mewtwo, but if this was a video podcast, I would just be having someone flash an image of Guzzlord up on the screen right now.
There you go.
Yeah,
Like, yes, this is a little more intense than the Elite Four.
No, I know. I'm saying that playfully.
I'm trying to think. I'm pretty much every single Pokemon game after Gen 2 has some kind of world-threatening stakes, while also insist that it's about a 10-year-old child trying to be the best.
Yeah, they've definitely pulled off something unique with the Pokemon formula. I don't think if you sort of tried to start a new game from scratch with a lot of these elements that it would be successful in 2025. Like, people would reject it, I think.
I don't know. I mean, you get
People would just say it's mimicking Pokemon, but
Well, that too, yeah. They'd be
Right.
like, well, it works because it's Pokemon, yeah. Yeah, so third track, had a really hard time. I knew I wanted to bring in... I've sort of had a mobile game grieving period over the last year.
Aw.
Near Reincarnation hit hard. Romancing Saga Reuniverse is over. SINoALICE is over. That's the one I picked.
Jeez, yeah. Rip.
Record Keeper's done. Final Fantasy Record Keeper. And this was all like last year. The servers went down on all those games in 24, I believe.
Wait, is Record Keeper even closed in Japan now?
Oh, I'm sorry. I should say global versions are down.
I haven't followed it, so I didn't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
no. Reuniverse and Record Keeper are still open in Japan. The other
okay.
ones I mentioned, I believe, are gone everywhere.
I think so, yeah.
So it's interesting as those games close. The publishers will release a final volume of music. I'm still waiting on the final volume of Near Reincarnation music, but SINoALICE, which is loosely part of the Draken Near universe, and has music by Monaka, Keiichi Okabe, and his team, is really some great music. And I think this was from the third and final volume of the OSTs published. I think this volume was better than the first two generally. And this particular song, though it's not necessarily a standout piece, I think it's representative of. Forgive me for using the word because it's so general, but it really represents sort of like the vibes that this game and what all it represents is kind of all about. It's soft, it's morose with like tiny tinges of maybe hope, maybe. If you know the stories, you know that maybe is always hanging as I don't know.
There's always a question mark, yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot more tragedy in these kinds of stories. But yeah, I just really liked the music on this one. I both like and dislike that such high quality music is being written for games that I think get largely ignored. And at the same time, it's kind of cool that like when the game's gone, like if all you have to hold on to is the soundtrack isn't gone, right? I don't need a private server and some hacking to listen to the music. It's still here.
Right.
And so I've been really enjoying SINoALICE Volume 3. I haven't written a review for it, but I really like it, and so that's why I brought this song. I think this might be my favorite track on the album.
No, I think it's.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I was gonna say like this is like my favorite of the ones that you brought because like
Oh wow.
I found like the time signature very hard to pin down, and I was like thinking, oh, that's probably why Pat picked it because it's like a very sophisticated song. I think like it's like very sneakily like hard to nail. Like I was like wondering, well, what kind of song is it? Like where does it play in the game? And like I don't know. Like I just thought it was
I actually
very
don't
unique.
I don't know the answer to that. I didn't play it in its last year, so I actually don't know.
Yeah, like yeah, I just didn't feel like I was settled in the song at all. And I just found it very interesting. and the beat is just very good in general. Like, solid melody as always from Keiichi Okabe. So.
Yeah, we talk about like resolutions in music a lot, and this is one that kind of it created an ambiance by not really having a lot of marked resolutions, and maybe which is why it's like also sounds a little bit peaceful, but maybe a little bit unsettling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Sorry,
go ahead. No, you go ahead, Hilary.
I was going to say something else that kind of added that to me was like the lower voices, kind of like the bass line in it.
Yeah.
That's a very buzzy bass that almost sounds like something on the Sega Genesis.
Right?
Parentheses non-derogatory.
Yeah,
But again, like I almost always search for context when I listen to game music, and I didn't know the context of this one. It felt like you were maybe exploring ruins, or I mean, going back to something like Nier Automata, like something that a place that used to be something else, but is now overgrown and green, so it's peaceful, but it hints at something darker. Like I don't get high stakes or dread from this, but I get like that this is peaceful. You're running through somewhere. You're maybe it's a beautiful space, but there's something mysterious about it as well, and I really like that. I mean, and just to go back on the a point Pat made earlier about the impermanent nature of certain online games. On the mobile phone game that I was addicted to for 18 months also ended its service in 2024. Although Dragon Quest Tact, although I stopped playing it in 2022. And that's, I mean that asks a very uncomfortable question about game preservation that I'm not sure the industry is happy addressing honestly right now. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I even go back all the way to like Marvel Heroes Omega, which consumed a few months of my life, and now there's no evidence of me ever having played it. But when before Tact shut down, I did go in and take screenshots of my favorite monsters, and that's how it's going to live on in my memory now. But I mean, it's a little bit frustrating that that excellent music like this, especially a Keiichi Okabe soundtrack, which is always something I want to listen to, mm-hmm. is locked behind this kind of game, which has a lot of players and a lot of support when they're hot, but there isn't a way to go back and play them after the fact usually, and that's a little upsetting. I mean, because I always want to know the context of a song when I'm listening to it, whether it's a Broadway musical or a video game track. And so this song's great. I really, really liked it. I think, like Gio, it's probably my favorite of the three you brought, Pat. But there's also that, twinge of annoyance that we can't play this game even if we want to. Yeah. But it doesn't unmake the game or unmake the music, and I'm glad that at least this had a soundtrack release that we could enjoy today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're saying is especially true for something like Reincarnation or SINoALICE, because it actually, just part of the problem is it does fit in to some degree with the Draken Nier universe, and there are like little details you get which are important that you might not.
Oh yeah, and real lore hounds, which many fans would probably consider themselves, would want to explore that, and mm-hmm. they can't do the primary source research on it anymore.
Nope.
Yeah. Not only that, there was a fan website called Accord's Library, which had hosted a lot of footage from Nier Reincarnation, and also had fan translations of a lot of like the Nier novels that have been stuck in Japan, and Square Enix, pushed for a cease and desist, and now the site's gone. Oh. And so it's like even fans' attempts to keep up with it get pulled too. It's maddening.
Right. And it's like, we always talk about when you have a game like that people will enjoy. It's like, well, isn't it possible? And like, usually the answer is like, no, it's not possible to do an offline version. And then Nintendo's like, anyway, we just did that with Animal Crossing. So like,
oh yeah, Pocket Camp.
Yeah, I'm like, why not do it? Like, I understand, like, okay, we shut it down because like we're not getting the revenue now. But it's like, well, you would probably get a new revenue stream if you. I mean, I realize you have to get
buy it for $10.
You'd have to get rid of all your gotcha elements and stuff. But it's like, why not? I don't know.
I support that idea, but I also don't think I want to go and play Rockman X Dive, even though I could.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
I don't think it's just good for my mental health.
They did that one offline too. I forgot about that. Yeah. To go back briefly to something you said earlier, Pat, you were worried that you saying like vibes for this kind of song was like generic. I don't think it is. I think all of us here on this show, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners, if you just say Yoko Taro or Keiichi Okabe vibes, people understand exactly what you mean. So
yeah, that's fair.
No,
that's fair.
I think that was a good way of saying it. I'm probably influenced a little bit by the cover art of this one. That it really makes me think of the amusement park in Nier.
Oh.
I think the cover art influenced me too, like a ruin that was overgrown with green. Yeah, that was my idea, but that might have been informed by the cover.
Yeah, but like there's something to this song that also kind of plays into that, because it's like it gives me some of that vibe of the amusement park, which is a fantastic song in Automata, but like a little less bleak, even though it's still kind of odd. Like it's really hard. A song like this, it's really hard to like pin down like what I'm supposed to be feeling, because it's just a little bit strange. Like I like the rhythm, and there's this mix of like there's a quick tempo with like there's like heavy and dramatic tones, but then there's like some higher pitched ones like seem like a little more hopeful or happy. And you know, it's like so many songs that you would get in Nier, or just from Monaka people in general. It's what?
Sorry. I just thought in my head that you pinpointed the like Keiichi Okabe / Nier vibes. They are ambivalence.
Yes. Yeah. It's but like, and then in this song, it's like it's that, but it's like all the different elements kind of come together in this weird sort of chaotic way that I am used to from him, and I just really enjoyed it.
If I can say just one thing quick about the artwork, you know, the thing that stands out to me about the art isn't the background environment, but it's the characters. That's Para and Noya on the front cover. They are kind of like, you'll see this a lot with Yoko Taro games. You have like Pod 42 and Pod 153, Mama and Papa, the Grimoires, where you kind of have this float alongside you character who serves as sort of narrator, guide, muse, knows way more than they should, but isn't telling you. But also Paranoia are like crazy puppets who are obsessed with madness and blood and death. They kind of revel over all the awful things that happen to all of these storybook characters that the game focuses on, like Alice and the Little Mermaid and all these other characters. And to see them at rest, at peace,
They look so
chilling
happy
with each other, happy with each other, it's nice, but it's also, if you interacted with them, that's unsettling that they could be in that state. There's also a scene right at the end of Nier Reincarnation that suggests something about them that I won't spoil, but there are screenshots and videos of that's easy to find. In fact, I think in my Reincarnation post-mortem I have a screenshot of that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they tie in.
Actually,
they're important.
That'd be a good thing to put in the show notes for this track.
I guess I could do that, yeah. I'll work on that if you want to introduce your songs.
Sure. All right. First of all, apologies for my allergy voice. I will try to deal with it the best I can.
Can't control that. You're okay.
But all right, so I feel like my selections today are very much 2025 me going back and saying, what do I need from 2024 right now? So my first pick is Renoir. And apologies, I'm going to try my best with the name. Lorien Testard. And that's from Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. And then next, we've got the Moiety theme by Robyn Miller from the 2024 Riven remake. And then last, we've got Nadie los podrá salvar by Jose Ramon Bibiki Garcia. And that's from Arco.
Wait, wasn't Riven in 2023? And then soundtrack was last year?
Oh, shoot.
No, it's
Oh.
fine. Like I even wrote 2024 in the notes.
We're playing so fast and loose with what counts. I mean, just
I
follow
know.
your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I very much am.
Yeah. All right. Let's go take a listen.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about how I'm flouting the rules.
mis manos la sangre corre, el reflejo de tantos que no podrán volver. Bendita mi alma se cubrió de oscuridad, de rabia y de miedo que los devorará. Si me encuentran, nadie los podrá salvar. Yo me vengaré de los que fueron hijos de ultramar, que prenden fuego, que pisan, que roban, que manchan el suelo al pasar. Que cuenten los días que les quedan por restar, que cuenten los días que anidan en nuestro hogar.
All right, let's get into it. We'll start with Renoir. So, yes, this is the beginning of me playing kind of fast and loose with the rules because this game is not out yet. But they're doing something that's really kind of innovative and exciting. They are releasing some music as they release more information and more trailers about the game. I wanted to call attention to that because it's just so exciting. But also, every single thing I've heard from this soundtrack musically has been amazing. So, another opportunity to spotlight it. So I had to pick something. And I was a little limited based on when they've released different batches of songs. I think we had one song from the first batch of music, but that's already been on the show, so that was out. And then they just released some other music, so that counts as 2025. So this is from the batch that released in 2024.
You didn't really have to be that specific, but why not?
I mean, I was careful about it.
Okay.
So one of the things I really, really love this soundtrack is how it uses piano. There's some really cool piano work throughout the whole thing, and I think this track spotlights that. You've got a little kind of like romantic classical kind of vibes, and I think some vibes that you could also pinpoint as being maybe traditionally French, or at least kind of evoking that kind of musical idea. And that's not something you see in a lot of game soundtracks. Like, I was looking through kind of at some commentary on the music, and someone mentioned the composer for the film Amelie. Like, some of this soundtrack was giving those vibes, and I could see it. So, you know, it's a slightly different style, which I think is very exciting, and I enjoy a lot. It also contributes to my theme, which is kind of a little bit dark, also fighting against difficult odds or kind of some oppressive force. What we know about the story in this game is that there is a paintress who is very dangerous and basically destroying humanity in their expeditions to fight off or stop the paintress. So this theme is especially interesting because Renoir is a painter, so it kind of like musically explores like, oh, what could his relationship be with this paintress and the rest of the team? And
yeah.
So I kind of was listening to it through that lens and really enjoyed that. But once again, I think I picked a lot of things with vocals, similarly to Pat, and you've got a really nice soprano on this soundtrack as well. Don't know that she was found at a baseball game, but it's still really exciting. Like, I liked her performance a lot, especially on this song. And just her soaring vocals with like some of the crashing chords from the piano section just really got me. And I'd be remiss if I did not mention just like the soft fade at the end, but then the giant crashing chord that's very jarring.
That's so fun, yeah.
Yeah, I like how this track really plays with a lot of, you know, you mentioned like romantic era 1800s. Like, it plays a lot with like classical by era, but then also classical by region.
Yes.
Right? This is not just very French, but specifically I would say very Parisian. Right? This evokes Paris to me. And yeah, the piano. It's the piano for me.
Expedition 33 sets off from Montmartre.
Oh, does it?
No, I'm making that up.
Okay.
That's a place like right outside of Paris.
See, he was going to believe it.
You'd believe it.
Oh yeah, you started in Saint Germain, then you got to go out to Montmartre to go to the north coast, and then it takes you all over Europe, just like Shadow Hearts Covenant. I
Yes!
mean, game of the year 2025 already.
Beautiful.
I'm in.
Love it.
I'm in. Love it.
Green light that.
But yeah, no, I think the piano is the thing that really drew me in with this one, and I'm a fan of the whole concept. I don't know the composer. This is the first time I've seen this name. I hope this brings them a lot of accolades and hopefully more music even after Clair Obscur has come out and the project is finalized and we can buy the 6-hour OST and all that.
I wonder if there's a 6-hour OST for this.
We'll see how much they make.
I don't have the attention span for many 6-hour OSTs, but for this one, I don't know. And thank you for mentioning that this is, I think from what I could tell, like a relatively new composer, which is another good reason to bring it on for Music of the Year.
Yeah, it's a new name to me.
I'm gonna do a very, very surface analysis that I know that people have been breaking down on the internet for months and months now. But
go for it.
I mean, clair is the French word for light or clear, and obscur is the French word for obscured or shadowed. And when you combine clair obscur, that is the French official word for the painting technique chiaroscuro.
Yep.
Which is using light and shadow in very specific ways in a visual medium. And I'm sure that there's going to be light and shadow motifs and metaphors all over this game. But it's also very present in this song. I mean, I'm like the piano is so soft and even lonely, but then when it builds into the French lyrics or has these surprise crashes that are almost jarring against the rest of the song, they want to not unsettle you, but they want to surprise the listener while also communicating melancholy or loneliness, and it absolutely works. This is a beautiful, beautiful piece. I don't know enough about late 19th century, early 20th century French composers to make a really, really sophisticated analysis, but I mean, I don't know, maybe there's a little bit of Clair de Lune DNA in here. It's really gorgeous. It makes me just a little bit more excited for Clair Obscur. Even more excited than I am to eventually try a SaGa game for the first time in 30 years.
Yay.
I had a similar analysis, but I didn't make the connection that this is the soft and loud thing was like light and shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool, Sollosi. But I just noticed that it feels like the song is like trying to make some sort of contrast between like the sad moments and the grand moments. That's what I felt. But I think Sollosi really made it clear what they were going for, I think.
Oh, I made it Clair, did I? All right, Clair.
Absolutely.
I was waiting for that. I'm so happy you did it.
And just another interesting tidbit about the lyrics is people have been kind of like dissecting those a little bit, and we may have a chaos language type situation on our hands because there is some French in there, but it is not all like exclusively translatable French.
Oh.
No, I didn't really understand the lyrics, but I think I picked up a French word or two, which made me think, oh, okay, this isn't French. My French isn't good enough to properly understand it. But no, this could be all right. If this is a chaos language, like whatever is going on in Nier, then that makes me feel a little bit more comforted.
Yeah, for sure. I think people were picking up like a couple Japanese words, maybe like across this music that's been released already, and
very interesting.
Yeah.
Every single thing, like you said, that I've heard from this soundtrack is so good. As much as I don't normally encourage looking at YouTube comments, I do enjoy looking at like the excitement from people on this one. Like it's really resonating with people that they're like releasing this music. Like whenever there's a new trailer, they release the song for that trailer, and it's like just to get the word out there. And I think it's a really, really good way of marketing this. And I know I said this the last time we had a song on, but it's like, it's smart because they understand that a lot of RPG fans really like music. So to put the music out there and not like hide it or like do takedowns, or like no, just release the music yourself. People want to hear it, and it's a good way of, I think, building hype for this game beyond everything else about the game and the trailers. So.
Do I mention the kind of silly trailer they did?
Oh, the French one?
Yeah.
Sure.
These devs have also shown that they have a really great sense of humor. When they released their French cast trailer, they also debuted some very interesting optional outfits that are actually going to be in the game.
Yeah, little berets and baguette weapons. Yeah.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, it was cute.
Ooh, is cheese an elemental or something in the magic system?
Oh, I hope so.
I could see it.
I would just use nothing else.
But people were just loving that. They're like, the line between, an exciting reveal trailer and, a troll post is very thin here, and I love it, basically, is what everyone was saying.
Right. Okay, well, before we go too far down that road,
yes.
I guess my last comment on this was just similar to everyone else, like just the piano there, the like usually minimal piano, is just low. Hauntingly beautiful is all I want to say about the song, between the way the piano is used and those vocals. Like everything is just so beautiful.
I love, a piano was originally called a pianoforte for a reason, and this track really exemplifies that, and I love it, using piano to living its best life.
If this wasn't going to be called Music of the Year, this episode.
Piano living its best life.
Piano living its best life. Maybe when we do another piano episode, we'll bring that up.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if everyone's ready, we can move on to the Moiety theme.
Yeah.
Which I'm very excited about. So I really like that this track was given new life for the remake, updated. It is the one that absolutely stuck with me when I was playing the game as, I don't know, a young teen. And it just exemplifies the ambiance that you get steeped in, the exploration aspect of Riven. It's the one track that stuck with me and just kind of symbolizes that to me. So I'm like, okay, I want to bring that. Also, I like the Moiety. They are probably one of my favorite things about the story in Riven. Basically, you are sent to Riven to rescue Catherine, who is Atris's wife, and the two of them, you learn from the Mist games, are capable of writing books that link to other worlds. But you learn that Catherine has been trapped by Atris's father on this age, Riven. You have to go rescue her. Catherine is from Riven originally, one of the few non-Denis people. Denis is kind of like the culture where this like power to write came from. One of the few non-Denis people who learned to write. But she's trapped, and you have to go rescue her. And as you're exploring the island, it's very, very desolate. Like, there aren't really people around. People are mostly hiding in their homes. You don't see them very much, but you find evidence, namely like these little daggers and little things around the island, that eventually lead you to a group called the Moiety, who is fighting back against Atris's father, Gann, who is basically has like a religious amount of control almost over this age, because he does know how to write, not very well. The game kind of like makes it a point, especially like the more you go into it, and like if you played all the games and know all the lore, they go into how he's kind of like the AI of the writing world in Myst. He learned by like taking bits and pieces of other people's writings and like, yeah. And
he writes a lot of like things that just completely fail. Right?
He writes a lot of unstable ages, which you learn in Riven. So the Moiety's fighting back against him, and I like them a lot. And they actually, with some help from Catherine, they have their own age, which you can discover as you go through Riven. So this is kind of moody, immersive. It has these slight undertones that I think work. Like, I love how the different musical layers kind of embody this. You can really picture like these people as kind of moving in the shadows, fighting back against this person who is very visibly like exerting control over your home and changing everything. And there's some really nice, like, it's not a very embellished song. It's not very complex, but there's just some really nice, like, atmospheric build-up with different chords and notes, and some call and response with the simple melodic phrases that you do get that I think just really, like, build up the atmosphere. And I think the remake just made all the different layers just a little bit clearer and really allowed the track to shine through. So that's why I picked it. And I have gone on about Riven for a little bit too long now.
No, you're fine. I mean, I think it's good to have some of the backstory, because I think it's probably the game of all of our songs today that maybe most listeners are least familiar with. So, no, I enjoy this a lot. I guess we think it's maybe a marimba. Is it a marimba?
It sounds like some sort of marimba-ish
It's a
percussive
marimba.
instrument, yeah.
Yeah. There's just something about music for games like Myst and Riven where, like, you know, it's really important to set a mood, but it still needs to be kind of an ambient sound, like, since you're going to hear this stuff so much. But I think this is I really enjoy this one as something that's, I hesitate to call it a background track, 'cause, I mean, technically that's what it all is, but it doesn't really jump out at you. But there's some really great moments in here that just really set a mood really well. So I enjoy it too, and I'm glad it's represented here.
Yeah, I think the magic really happens when you pair it with, like, some of the visuals, which when Riven first came out were really, really fancy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so glad they did this remake. It's an excuse to talk about one of my favorite games and series from the 90s.
Yeah.
Hey, Robyn Miller, like, looking back, like, what he did with, like, very limited tools, right?
Mhm.
Just these, it's like, okay, we're gonna have some sort of sustained string ensemble kind of stuff, and then we're gonna pull out a marimba and a timpani and see where we end up, and the occasional woodwind. And yeah, I don't think, between Myst and Riven, I don't know which soundtrack I like more, but I do know that across the Riven OST, the Moiety themes, top 5, maybe top 3 for me.
Mhm.
It's so, what I love about listening to the full soundtrack, though, is I can sort of in my mind reimagine, call up very clearly and vividly what I'm experiencing on each of the 5 islands of Riven.
Mhm.
You know, back in the day, like when you bought the game in the 90s, it was a 5-disc game, and then you switched discs every time you moved from one island to the other.
I still remember the sound effect, the little please switch
Yep.
discs.
Yep. And so while some music can play on different islands, because sometimes it's tied to puzzles, events, that kind of thing, a lot of the music is sort of tied to one island or one region. Obviously with Moiety, it's, you know, they have their own age. Yeah, so I hear the songs and I can, like, very much feel like I'm back in those spaces. And so, I mean, what Robyn Miller wrote back then is just so impressive. I do like some of the remastering, and maybe, I'm not sure if they did some re-recording. They definitely did some mixing and mastering. But yeah, I really am glad this game came out again with a new soundtrack, and frickin' everyone should listen to it. It is iconic. I think it's just such an important part of gaming history. That's my piece.
And so, yes, and so this is also part 2 of me bending the rules, because technically this music is from 1997.
Yeah, but I
this
mean,
version-
I could have put Romancing Saga 2 on here, and that's from like 93, but we got a new soundtrack, so.
There we go.
My relationship with Myst and Riven is a little bit weird. I never owned any of them. I played them at friends' houses, but they were they seemed so sophisticated and big and full of secrets. And then I was quite young when I attempted them. with others, and we could never figure them out. That I always thought they were just so cool, but yet so like inscrutable. That I just feel deep intimidation thinking back to Mr. Riven nowadays.
Yep.
So listening to this music, which I think I probably have heard in its original version before, just messing around with Riven at a friend's house, it didn't have specific nostalgia for me, but it made me just think of like, oh, I'm somewhere where I'm not the smartest person in the room here. but it does have real ambiance, and I'm sure that it hits all that much harder if you have a closer relationship to Mr. Riven than I do. But I'm just glad that this had a recent remake, so that these certifiable classics are available to play now. I mean, people complain about, well, we get all these remakes, but without remakes, things might go the way of SINoALICE, and no one wants that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It's, it's funny, actually. I had a very similar experience to you, Sollosi, because my brother and I tried playing Myst when we were younger, and I think we had Riven. I'm not sure we even got to it, but I'm like, we didn't know what to do. We're like, okay, this is cool. Like, it was fun to like click around and walk around, but we're like, I don't know what's going on. And I was like, I felt the same way. Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine. Two of my friends from childhood specifically count Myst among their favorite games of all time. And I would always try to play it with them, and they would guide me through, and I would just feel so lost. And
Right.
so again, I respect these games so much, but I still feel intimidated by them decades later.
And I did until Hilary was like, no, we're going to sit down and play Myst. And I'm glad I finally did. I mean, I still needed help, but
You didn't need that much help. It was
No.
not as scary as you thought it was going to be.
you know what's neat though, like about both of these, and I'm glad they did this remake for another specific reason, because when I finally played Myst, I played real Myst, the one in real time instead of static images, and I was like, boy, I would really like this for Riven too, and then that's exactly what they did. But it's so cool to think about something that was basically all like pre-rendered and like CG movies and all that in 1997, and now you can play through a real-time version of that, like without static scenes and all that, and it looks even better than it did back then. I think that's one of the best quality of life things they could have done.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you all for going on that journey with me. And let's go to, I think, the shortest song.
Sadly,
Yeah.
one of the shortest songs today. Yeah.
That we have in our lineup today, which is Nadie los podrá salvar, which is a really cool combination of like some traditional guitar, some Spanish vocals, and a little bit of electronic edge to it as well. I love the contrast between kind of the warm organic vocals and the guitar, like kind of, I don't want to say reverb, but maybe some reverb, something going on with the guitar and the other instrumentation. It sounds desolate, but really, really pretty. And just for a little bit of context, I picked this because I was a little bit inspired by our like games of the year. Someone put Arco in there as like the game you didn't play but really should. And this is a soundtrack that maybe you haven't heard, and you should.
I'm learning that very quickly.
Yes. It's really, really good. And there are more vocal tracks, so yay. Each, from what I understand, the game is broken up into chapters, and there's kind of a chapter ending where the character goes back to a previous location, having experienced some important events. And I think, at least for the majority of those instances, you get a vocal track. And this is a particularly powerful one, from what I understood. I really want to play this game now. And if you kind of delve into the lyrics and the tone of it, it's a little bit of a battle cry, a very pretty, pretty battle cry. Nadie los podrá salvar translates to no one will save them. And one of the lines in the song is like, if they find me, no one will be able to save them. So it's like, if you come at me, you're ended,
that's hardcore.
kind of thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it almost has kind of like a revolutionary sort of feel if you get into the lyrics. So it's, I don't know. I just thought it was really, really cool.
Yeah, the subject matter of the game is like about colonialism
Yep.
in America, I think.
There you go.
I read a bit about it. So that it makes sense why.
Yep, that tracks 100%.
Yeah. I was also just disappointed that this was so short because it was so good, and like I immediately like listened to the whole soundtrack because it's not that long, and my God, it's so good. It's so good. Like it's just this full of these twangy, distorted guitar tunes, and some of them are fast, some of them are slow, and I don't know. It has such a interesting personality. Like it also made me instantly more interested in playing Arco. There's like a boss theme towards near the end of the OST, El Gallo. That's like wow, I was
Ooh.
floored. It's so good, very very good song. And this one, Nadie Los Podrá Salvar, is very, very very. I don't know. I kind of got Last of Us vibes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
can see that.
I got Gustavo Santa Olalia vibes from the song.
Oh,
And yeah, that the Last of Us soundtrack is very good. It's very very good too.
Yeah,
So,
and thank you.
Yeah, and it put me in the same headspace. Yeah.
Nice. And thank you for mentioning that because I was thinking about that, and I think I wanted to pick a song that like was very directly about those themes. So thank you for clarifying that, Gio, so much.
I remember when this game was new and it was getting some positive buzz on the podcasts I listened to, and but I hadn't really listened to it or done real research on it. So, but when you showed us this, I was absolutely floored. It's gorgeous, just like everyone here. I wish it had at least a second phrase to so we could live in this song for a little bit longer. And doing a little bit of casual research, the development team here is very international. The writer, composers, and developers are from Spain, Poland, Australia, and Mexico. And the theme of colonialism, I mean, it immediately communicates Mexico or the American Southwest to me.
Yep.
It made me think of watching Kill Bill Volume 2 for the first time. Where like the Itu Mira song in that movie, where it is a little bit like a classic spaghetti western, but with just more emotion and a more modern sensibility to it. But yeah, absolute stunner of a song. The soundtrack immediately went onto a playlist. The game is immediately on a wish list. I am into this.
Yeah. I mean,
So we're all gonna play it now.
I think we need to.
Well, we're gonna. Okay, look, this is Rhythm Encounter, so we're gonna talk about playing it.
Oh yeah.
But maybe not actually play it. If you want to listen to a podcast where they actually play the games they talk about, there's a different one that RPG Fan hosts that I can point to you.
I've heard of that one. Retro something.
I don't know. I mean, it was good for like a year and then it completely fell off, but now it's good again.
I don't think it had a bad year. At least
I don't think it fell off.
while you were there. No.
I don't think it fell
Sorry,
off.
I'm not going to let you get away with that. Okay, yeah. So this song, oh my god, this vocalist, and it looks like there's a bunch of them on the album, but is so good. The minimal. I keep saying minimal today, but we keep having some songs with like good minimal this or that. But the instrumentation, like towards the intro especially, like really lets like the vocals like sink in, and then just the build up and the passion in her singing, even though it's very short, the passion is so just intense, and I really really loved it. So yeah, like everyone else, like now I gotta listen to more of this. I want to check out the game. I know I don't even remember when it came out last year because there was too many games last year, so it's I think sadly maybe a little more overlooked than some others, but I want to. What's the opposite of overlook? Underlook. That's not right. Anyway, I want to look into
highlight.
it. Yes, yeah, that. Also, like knowing what I know of, like at least what the game looks like a little bit, because I've seen it here and there, just the pixel art and stuff. This is a similar reaction I had to Ekenfell, where I was like, I wasn't expecting like vocals and like this kind of music in a game that looks like this, and I think that's just really cool when that happens.
Yeah, I love the contrast between like very sort of retro digital pixel art, and then like very lively, like real instruments recorded music. I think that contrast is really cool. And I'll also just say generally, it is so hard to keep up with all the good releases. This is the, when you brought this onto the show, Hilary, this was my first time hearing anything from Marco.
Ooh.
And I just, most of the stuff on here I've heard at least in passing, but that I was just like, oh, I didn't ever listen to this. And much like Sollosi, definitely putting that in the playlist. And there's just so much good music out there, and I just love how specific, like, this scratches a very particular itch for me that a lot of game music does not. And very, very impressed by it, so thank you.
Yeah. Can we also, I'm looking at the credits for this album, can we also just briefly touch on the fact that our composer Jose here did acoustic guitar, the ukulele? Is that a guitar ukulele? Electric guitar, bass, cajon, small percussion, synths, voices, and other miscellaneous instruments. So this is a very, very talented person working on this soundtrack.
Yeah, multi-instrumentalist, recording most of his own stuff. Yeah.
Now I want to listen for the other miscellaneous instruments.
Yeah, well, some are here. English horn and oboe.
Ooh.
That's wow. I mean,
there's one for this song.
To be fair, a lot of people that can play oboe also play English horn. It's like a mid-range instrument between oboe and bassoon.
Okay.
Amazing English horn solo in the second movement of Dvorak's New World Symphony.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm impressed when anyone can play an instrument. So if someone's like, "Hey, I can play like 14," I don't even know what to say about that.
And they've got like a nice range of vocalists too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they brought on a lot of good vocalists. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Is it Sollosi time?
All right. Well, if it's Sollosi time, some of these might be expected, some of these might be less expected. We'll see. For my block, I basically just went with 3 of the songs from 3 of the games that occupied my headspace the most this year. We're going to kick off with Impregnable Triangle, composed by Chihiro Aoki from Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Then Coral Crown, composed by Darren Korb, with vocals from Aaron Yvette, Ashley Barrett, and Judy Alice Lee from Hades 2. And then Queen's Blood, Prodigious Pedigree, composed by Mitsuto Suzuki from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
All right. This is a great block. I can't wait to
It's
get
a
into
killer
it.
lineup.
So let's get into it.
Okay, so that was my block of picks, and I don't know how much I communicate this over my several episodes of Rhythm Encounter I've done over the years, but really what I seek in video game music are I want bangers and I want context. I want music that'll get me excited or feeling something or thinking about something, and if I know its place in the game or how it enhances its moment within the game, then I enjoy it all the more. And so all three of these songs are battle tracks of a sort, but they each are sort of uniquely interact with the story of their game. The first one, Impregnable Triangle, Chihiro Aoki. Really, the Yakuza games have had two musical architects since Yakuza 5 or thereabouts. Hidenori Shoji, who joined around Yakuza 4-5 range, and Chihiro Aoki, who joined the sound team a little bit later. I think she had a lot of tracks in Yakuza 6, is sort of where she broke out. But a lot of her songs will have sort of more modern electronica or even like dubstep or club influences in her pieces. But Impregnable Triangle isn't that. If anything, it's a little bit more stripped down and classical than a lot of recent Yakuza music. And it's in a triplet-based time. It might be 3/4, it might be 6/8. I don't know for sure. But it's it feels like a waltz or a dance, but with a bit of a sinister edge to it. And the context of it, minor spoilers. This is at some point of the game, the Infinite Wealth sort of divides into this is Ichiban's team and this is Kiryu's team. So this is during a Kiryu chapter. And Kiryu has been, over the course of 7+ games, has been trying to do good, even though he's surrounded by darkness. He's determined to put all the suffering and that he's caused on himself and not drag in any loved ones into the underworld of Yakuza. So he, at some point, he's convinced that he's better off dead and not not affecting the others around him. But over the course of Infinite Wealth, his friends keep lifting him up. They keep reminding him of the positive impact he's had on the world, and they bring back a 12+ cameos to remind Kiryu of who he is, and that maybe he does deserve to exist. But in Impregnable Triangle, he's in his team you're in the Kiryu chapters, so it's his team of 5 characters, including him. It's a boss battle against some of his old acquaintances. It's not that hard to figure out if you know these games, even if you haven't played this one. And there's a scene where Kiryu who's used to being so stoic and taking on all the burdens on his own, he starts to falter. He can't fight all 3 opponents off at the same time. So his teammates step in, they parry a bunch of attacks, they help him up again, and Kiryu, it's like a growth moment for Kiryu that's oh, maybe it's okay to rely on others. Maybe I don't have to do everything myself and take on all the suffering myself. And that's it's an extremely vivid, poignant moment for me, even though it takes place in a story battle with a waltz battle theme to it. And it's absolute banger. I've listened to it so many times. The only reason I didn't immediately replay this game in New Game Plus is because New Game Plus is locked behind DLC, which I don't love, and it's a 90-hour game.
It sounds like you got a lot out of your one playthrough anyway, so.
Yes.
Yeah. This sounds. I'm glad you said what you said about the music and what the series or this composer normally does versus this, because I was I hope I'm not really barking up the wrong tree here, but it sounds and just bear with me here, a really great dramatic RPG song, which I realize it's an RPG, but I'm used to that electronic or club music, and there's a certain musical style I'm used to in admittedly the limited games I've played, but thanks to you and some others, I've heard music from the ones I haven't played. So it surprised me, the style of music at work here. I don't know if part of that is because of Ichiban's love of RPGs, as that works into these 2 games, but I thought it was really fun. I guess I should be used to being surprised by Yakuza and Like a Dragon music by now, but I enjoyed this a lot. Yeah. So again, not sure if that's really the correct take since I'm doing it out of context, but it was a fun surprise and makes me want to play the game more.
I'm glad Sollosi like preserved the who it is you're fighting with this battle theme. Although it's, you know, you can kind of infer it if you've played like a few of these. But for me, I was like, when I played this part of the game, I was like, this is really unusual for even for Like a Dragon, which is full of like these diverse sounding songs. Like this is the first time I've ever heard like a Baroque-ish sounding battle theme, and I was like wondering why this is like an unusual choice also for the battle. It's like I didn't really understand why, but I really liked it. I really like this song. It's one of the best songs on the soundtrack. But I know the composer Chihiro Aoki is like one of the boundary pushers of the RGG Studio sound team. Like she's like, frankly, she's like brilliant. I think she's like the best composer on the team, and I think this is like one of her magnum opuses. I would say I would go so far as to say that because it's so unusual. It's so different from everything that they've tried, that they've done before. Yeah, so I'm really glad that Sollosi brought this one because it's like, I think what was really striking to me is that the beat, it's like a Baroque song on a hip hop beat, which is like really odd, but it works so well.
Oh, I like that.
I just found it so cool.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, really, really, really good song.
And you know, especially with the it sounds like a harp counter melody at some points. People sometimes compared this to being like a like pirate music, and only irony of ironies, their next game is a big pirate adventure.
Yeah, they're previewing that a little bit, maybe.
People felt the same way about they did a different song that was in 6/8 time. One of the final battle tracks of Yakuza Like a Dragon from 2020 is called Triplet After Triplet, and it does sound like dark dubstep pirates. But,
oh my god!
But I think that might be a Shoji song and not an Aoki song. But yeah,
that's some fun titling in that case. I'm glad you all were talking about the rhythm and the time signature, because I definitely took some notes about that and how there are some really strong like downbeats that kind of help the song with phrasing and like really accentuate that kind of like Baroque kind of dance feel, which I really loved. And I am so glad that I got to hear this and see some of the range going on in Infinite Wealth. It's really, really cool to see. And I really enjoy the guitar accents too, because I'm used to hearing, you know, like rock guitar.
Yeah.
But I think they use the accents really, really well in this one. And it definitely still does its job of being driving enough to be a very, very serious battle.
Yeah, really what I'm getting out of this is, Hilary and Mike, you gotta maybe skip the line a little bit and go to play the RPGs instead of suffering through 3 and 4.
I'm okay with
which
that.
I know is against Mike's instincts.
I know.
No, three is good. Three is good. You have to
Must play in order.
Like three is good and but plays the worst. 4 has maybe the messiest storyline, and I don't know. And 5 is just somehow the longest one. I don't know. I like all 3 of those games, but I just want to like hear you guys' reactions to what goes on in the Ichiban games.
Yep, I want to skip to the Ichiban games. I'm
Well,
not gonna lie.
maybe okay. We can get away with starting 7, right?
Yay!
Like I really would not want to play Infinite Wealth without playing all the Kiryu games.
There are. If you played 7, there are 2 cameos you wouldn't understand, and that's it.
Okay, all right.
Not bad.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say real quick, my one note that I took kind of mimics Gio's Baroque plus hip hop. I heard sort of like house rhythm, like with like a rhythm band and guitar matched against sort of the grandiosity of like Handel's Messiah kind of deal.
I like how it's handled
I did not have a Handel's Messiah comparison pegged for this episode. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean not in the sense of the choir, but more the compositional style and the
Ah,
instrumentation.
okay.
Yeah. I know it's not a Hallelujah chorus, but it's, if you listen to the parts of Messiah that aren't the Hallelujah chorus, I think you'll jive with it.
Well, speaking of choruses, the next song, Coral Crown, it's from Hades 2, and I'll get to the chorus comparison in a moment. And Hades 2 entered early access in, I think, May of 2024. And with that release on Steam, the soundtrack of including every song on the current version of the game is available. It's not on iTunes or Bandcamp yet, but you can just buy the soundtrack straight up if you have early access to Hades 2. And Coral Crown is super interesting. First of all, it's just a rock song that slaps. It's on its own, it's a very cool listen. People compare it to like the Hex Girls from Scooby-Doo, which amuses me to no end. But the crazy thing about it is, I guess minor spoilers, but of course I always want context. You're fighting a group of sirens, and there's three of them. There's sort of the main singer and then two backup singers. But if you kill the backup singers before the main singer, then their parts in the chorus and the instruments they're playing drop out of the song. So it, like, the song is affected by the context of the boss fight, and that absolutely slays me. I love that. But also just the song itself is like a siren singing to you about how they're going to murder you. And I believe Coral Crown is replaced by another song, or at least has a chance to be replaced by another song if you beat them a few times, or if you use the fear system, which is like a difficulty slider sort of, to make the boss fight harder. It's replaced with a song that's called, I believe, I'm Going to Claw Your Eyes Out and Drown You to Death, which is a little bit harsher in tone to Coral Crown. But it again, just like in the context of the game, it's great. The way it interacts with the gameplay is great, and I just love it as a sort of rock song with female vocals. That's just super dope.
It's so good. And Sollosi, you're not going to believe this, but I actually even looked up the context and we watched the entire battle ahead of time, despite spoilers. I'm like, no. Like I heard just a little bit about the music dropping out and changing based on how you play it. I'm like, no, I got to see this. And I love that. Whenever any game that like makes really good use of like dynamic music like that, I think is really impressive. So besides being impressive, it's a great rock song. It's so much fun. But the way it's used in the game, and the idea of the sirens like playing this music to like lure you in and kill you, and then singing about what they're going to do and like that they're going to do it. It's so on the nose, and like if it was in the hands of not anyone else, but like you could do that wrong. But of course, these people don't do anything wrong. So no, it was so much fun. I'm glad you brought that one.
I think there's this sort of convention with sirens that they're like sort of like masking what they're going to do, but also sort of not really.
Yeah.
I love how this song plays into that. Like they're telling you what's going to happen, but it just sounds really pretty. And I'm very, very proud to say that I did guess sirens before I looked at the full context of this song.
Of course you did. Yeah.
I also wonder, again, because this is, I mean, the Supergiant team and Darren Korb are absolutely brilliant in both their writing and their musicality. I think this might be a send-up of all of the like idol singers that we see in RPGs over the last 20 years. Because like again, but this is like a girl group that's trying to murder you, and they even thank the crowd if you do lose. But again, maybe that's just me being a little bit leery that there are so many pop idols in games over the last 15 years or so. Maybe I'm sure I'm sure Persona 4 wasn't Patient Zero or anything, but there's just a lot of them out there.
Yeah. Doesn't your character even say something like, they're talking before the battle, and I think your character pipes in at some point with like, how do you have any fans left?
I haven't seen that, but I wouldn't be shocked by that because I mean, just in Hades 1, there are hundreds of pre-battle dialogues that Zagreus gets. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's a similar situation for Millennium. And maybe this is surprising coming out of this mic and not a different mic, but I haven't played Hades 2 yet. I know. I'm waiting for a full console release, but because Hades is one of my favorite games of the last 20 years, and because I will be chomping at the bit to play Hades 2 when it does get its full release. I have watched so many videos of Hades 2 and listened to its soundtrack so many times. It is a little bit alarming that I haven't played it, but it's just because of the nature of this game and because it's in a like 80+% completed state. I mean, there's we know that there's at least 8 main zones to play through. Hades 1 had 4. This one has 8, and the current version of the early access has 7 of those 8 fully playable.
Okay.
So it's it's coming. It's already in a very playable state, but I just don't want to do it yet because I want to jump in its completed version.
That's fair.
But as soon as that happens, this is going to be my a brand new obsession because I've already listened to Coral Crown probably 100 times.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's CORAL, not CHOIR.
Correct.
I just also want to really quickly add that I lost it when we were watching the boss fight, and I think at one point the main singer got hit in a little clip. Like, they're floating around in a clamshell, and I think the clamshell closed, and the voice was all muted. And got really soft. I know I've said it tons of times about Shadows Over Loathing, but like any game that adds or takes away from the music dynamically during a battle is just like one of my favorite things.
It's really cool.
I'm super excited that you brought this, and it's fun to see in real time too.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's like I love listening to this song straight up, but it's one of those ones where I would encourage like someone to either play or like look at a video to see how it's used in context too, because that you wouldn't get right from the soundtrack.
Yeah. Darren Korb, Supergiant Games, and then of course Ashley Barrett's been doing vocals all the way back to Zia's theme "Build That Wall" back in
Bastion.
Can't remember. Bastion, thank you. Yeah, the first game they ever did. So Ashley Barrett's been around a long time. These new vocalists that they've added, really good. I'm so glad not only that you brought a Hades 2 track, but that you brought Coral Crown. I think it has proven to be a very popular track among fans of the game, fans of the series, fans of Supergiant.
Yeah, if the soundtrack has an early breakout hit, this is the one.
Yeah.
It has by far the most views on their YouTube channel. Yeah, the entire soundtrack is on the Supergiant Games YouTube channel. If you don't want to pay for it on Steam.
Yeah, you can stream it on YouTube, but then it isn't out on a lot of other platforms. And then you can also buy through Steam as like almost like add-on or DLC content through having the early access game. I'm like you though, Sollosi. When I played the first Hades, I played it on Switch. It didn't feel as good for me playing it on PC. So I'm waiting for Hades 2 on Switch or presumably Switch 2. And I know I'll go nuts and play hundreds of hours at that point. And I'm also curious to see, the soundtrack as it is. How complete is it? I mean, it is 3 hours already. It's a ton of music. But I do wonder, will we get like super final boss music? In Hades 1, the like things go super hard, super final hard mode Hades boss had music. Electric guitar by Masahiro Godspeed Aoki. I wouldn't be surprised if for a super hard final boss they brought him back. So yeah, we'll see what happens, how much more music they add when it has its final release. But I've been watching this closely, and I'm excited to see what else comes. But yeah, Coral Crown is just, what a great song. Mm-hmm. What a great song. And I love all the dynamic stuff you guys talked about already.
Yeah. Very important question. Does Hades 2 have a duet yet? Or are we still waiting on that?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure we know what the version of the end credits is for this, because I mean in the Blood is such an amazing song, and a lot of the Eurydice Orpheus interactions in Hades 1 are so special. I'm not sure we have something like that in Hades 2, but they haven't plugged in every narrative element into the game yet. There's a lot they're holding back, even though it's in an extremely playable state right now.
For me, I feel like everyone covered, what I wanted to say, but I do want to shout out Tin, because it's because of her that I was exposed to the soundtrack and this song in particular, because she kept dying this boss. So
it looks hard.
It looked like a hard fight.
Yeah. But she eventually overcame it and finished
go Tin.
The game. Yeah, go Tin.
Again, I haven't played this game yet, but I've watched so much of it. I already have nightmares about the third boss in the second path. the most recent one.
I know what you're talking about. I've been watching Let's Plays, and I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess that's enough on Coral Crown. The last track comes from what I think is probably the soundtrack of the year, from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Queen's Blood Prodigious Pedigree by Mitsuto Suzuki. There are so many composers on this track, and it has incredible breadth and depth. I believe it's 7 discs and 175 tracks. And if that number wasn't already intimidating, Queen's Blood is a card game. That's one of the major sort of side activities you can do in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. You play about 30 opponents. They're scattered all over the world. You eventually uncover a mystery about the creation of the card game and how it might be haunted. And the rarest card in the game has a string of murdered former possessors of it. And the final battle in that side quest, and this is the soundtrack. The song "Prodigious Pedigree" is the final battle track. Is basically not only to conquer this card game, but also to save the soul of your opponent. It adds rather ridiculous drama to what should be a very, very inconsequential side game within FF7 Rebirth. But I mean, Queen's Blood on its own is super fun. The story is shockingly shockingly deep for being a card game inside a Final Fantasy game. But because and just also illustrates the depth of this soundtrack, there's like 6 Queen's Blood tracks in this game. There's Queen's Blood against a regular opponent, Queen's Blood against a few specific unique opponents, whether you're playing it at the Gold Saucer or in Costa del Sol, the track is different, and it's so crazy. But this song itself, it feels like a final boss track. It sort of goes into this into this rolling piano, and then to some truly chaotic violin, and then a full orchestra that has a lot of melodrama in its tones. But it feels like the final boss of a gothic RPG, when really it's just the last opponent in a card game side quest. And because Final Fantasy VII Rebirth goes so hard and has so much music, and almost all of it is so incredible, that it blows my mind a little bit that they had this this incredible song for just the final battle of one side quest. And if you want to just know how deep this goes, another one of the better side games in this game is Chocobo Racing. There's about 15 to 20 Chocobo tracks to race on.
Ooh.
And if you get to the final tier of them, the track that plays is a new heavy metal remix of Crazy Chocobo.
Oh my god.
So that's just how weird and deep this soundtrack goes. And even though Final Fantasy VII Rebirth soundtrack probably deserves its own episode of Rhythm Encounter. But the reason that I picked just the end song of one side quest, not only because I love the song, but because that's just illustrative of how far this soundtrack goes to create sonic experiences for the player.
I feel richer knowing that there is like a creepypasta like cursed card story in the Rebirth universe. That's so great. Like, that just makes me happy. It gives me kind of a feel for some of the like surprising or maybe sometimes goofy like things that you find out from the original. That spirit is I love that.
Right.
But
One of your opponents is the ghost of the creator of the game, who lost his life because of the cursed card, and he's at the ghost hotel in the gold saucer.
of course.
Oh my god.
Oh, that's too perfect. And I actually, now knowing that, it's actually given me kind of a new perspective on the track, because I have a lot in my notes about like the strings and the piano being kind of like a little bit at odds, but knowing that it's a card battle and you have kind of a ghost involved, like I can totally see the like very like fervent strings kind of being the ghost part. I don't know. I like it a lot.
My notes are useless now because I was mostly focusing on how great this song is, and like, man, this feels like an actual battle in an RPG, not a card battle. But that's because I didn't know the context, or that there is an entire, lore and story attached to this world of this card game in the game. That's fantastic.
Mike, when you play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and you try Queen's Blood a couple times, the first thing you do in every new town will be to look for the Queen's Blood opponents. I promise.
I don't doubt it.
I can vouch for that.
I want to see. I know people have told me similar things for some other ones, but usually those card games don't land for me. But I'm going to try it. I've heard it's one of the better ones compared to the others. Even people that like Triple Triad and stuff.
What if Triple Triad had world-shaping story hooks?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
See, that's something they've never done. So I'm like,
that
all
sounds
right.
Okay. All right, I don't want to derail us, but have we done a feature on card games?
No.
We need to now. I'll bring the Gwent music.
Yeah.
Oh wait, a feature or well, whatever.
I was
Do
thinking
both.
a feature, but like, yeah, just discussing Gwent versus Queen's Blood versus Triple Triad.
Finally, Steam World Quest can have its moment in the sun.
Exactly. There we go.
That's a fun idea. I like it.
Yeah. I think, real quick, Sollosi, I love that, your reasoning for why this song specifically, like, this soundtrack is so big that even its side quest content is more impressive than, like, whole soundtracks from other games, right? Like, and Mitsuda Suzuki did a lot of the side quest and minigame music for both Remake and Rebirth, and Mitsuda Suzuki is one of my, like, I adore his work, including his work on 13-2. So there's another crazy Chocobo.
Oh, yes.
So it's just like, it really is impressive. Like, it spans, there's just so much content. It's more than a soundtrack. It's like, it's like soundtracks to multiple games, because that's how big Rebirth is. And that even a side game could feel bigger and more important than, like, an entire, PS1 RPG that I might have fond memories of. Like, that's impressive. Also the violin.
Yep.
Love the violin.
Oh yeah, so good, so good.
Really, the performances are, and that's something I kind of expect from the Remake and Rebirth soundtracks, from what I've heard. But yeah,
yeah, they always have like 150 performers credited.
But really great performances and many, many performers. So It's important, I know that's kind of the expectation, but important to acknowledge like how great those performances are.
It almost makes me a little upset that so many of these tracks are buried at the end of a line of side quests.
Mm-hmm.
That it won't become a signature song for everyone that plays the game. But
well, it's also, you can think of it as the reward for sticking to it, is like, wow, like there's actually something magical at the end of this.
Yes, but I want everyone to experience the magic. It's a version of suffering from success, I guess. But it's I probably could have made all three of my picks from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But that idea would not have sit well with me in the end. But again, it's probably my soundtrack of the year. This is a slightly obscured but very powerful song from that banger of a soundtrack.
Yeah. I mean, all three of your picks today. I mean, I'm very, very fond of them, so thank you.
Yeah, great picks. Great picks.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. That was a successful part 1 of our Music of the Year podcast. I had a lot of fun. There's even more stuff to come. But we're still going to do a standard outro here today, starting with debut. We had a few debut games for Rhythm Encounter today, and those were Arco, Hades 2, Riven, actually.
Oh, hey!
And SaGa Emerald Beyond.
Yay!
So, yeah, always happy when we introduce new things to the show. So thank you all for...
I'm happy it wasn't Genn's theme that I introduced first.
No, you picked a good one to introduce Riven to the show. Coming up next on Rhythm Encounter, as I said in the intro, is our part 2 of Music of the Year. We're shifting the schedule a little bit just so there's not 2 weeks between them. So part 2 will actually be out next Monday. And then after that, it will be time for our Xenoblade Chronicles X episode, because we're trying to time that, around the release of the definitive edition. So be sure to check that out. We featured that game many times on the show, but you know what? Let's do one more. It's one of the last big Wii U games to finally make it to Switch, so I think it's going to do really well. If you have thoughts on this episode, you want to share some of your music of the year, you can reach the show and me at music@rpgfan.com. For everyone else, what is the best way for people to reach you, Sollosi?
I'm not that hard to find on the internet. I am on Instagram, Blue Sky, and RPG Fans Discord, on all 3 places at Evoker for Dogs.
Nice. And Pat?
You can hit me up. My email address, pgan@rpgfan. I'm also known as Gameadactyl. The word game, the letter O, and dactyl. And you can find me as Gameadactyl not only on Twitter, but also on Blue Sky. Happy to announce that. So y'all can find me on Blue Sky.
Great. How about you, Gio?
Yeah, you can email me at gio@rpgfan.com. And yeah, you can also find me on Blue Sky. I am Tenbistar, TENBISTAR. I always forget how that username thing goes. So
right.
Yeah. Dot something not so short. Yeah.
Okay. And Hilary.
Best way to reach me is hilary@rpgfan.com. I'm also on the RPG Fan Discord. I'm EP Fire, although I'm not there quite as often.
Okay. All right. Of course, Rhythm Encounter is not the only show on the RPG Fan podcast network. We also have Random Encounter and Retro Encounter. Random Encounter just recently did an episode on Citizen Sleeper 2, a game that I suddenly want to play, and the remastered version of Tales of Grace's F. So if you're interested in either of those 2 very different games, go check out Random Encounter. They post every other Monday, opposite of us. And Sollosi, because you don't host Retro Encounter anymore, I will not make you do this part. Normally, I'm happy to, but I'll get it this time.
Well, if you're offering.
Yeah. Over on Retro Encounter, as you probably know if you listen, Sollosi recently stepped down as showrunner. So Zach Wilkerson is our new host now, and they just wrapped up their 2-part game journal on Final Fantasy IX. So definitely go check that out. That was a highly requested game journal from us. So take a listen to that. And then coming up next on Retro Encounter, they are doing a special episode on Hironobu Sakaguchi. I think that'll be fun to just cover his history, because he's done worked on some fairly important games for RPGs. So so you can find Retro Encounter every other Thursday. And yeah, those are our shows. Otherwise, you can find RPG Fan on most social media. Right now we're on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, Twitter. We have a Twitch, Discord, and YouTube. All those links are in our show notes. And then our website is rpgfan.com, where you can find news, reviews, and podcasts, of course, and everything else that we post on RPG Fan. including our shop, our lovely RPG Fan shop, which does need some new merchandise. But for now, you can get RPG Fan branded merch through TeePublic and our review card collection book through Hyperplay RPG. So yeah, go check those out. If you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you could subscribe and review us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever it is you get your podcasts. That support helps and, just gets the word out even more. So, all right, all of you, thank you for being here. We will see you all, my panel and hopefully the listeners, in part 2 coming next week. All right, thank you, everyone.
Yay.
Yay!
Remastered 2024. I mean, that's true. Oh my God, did it come out last year?
I think it was 24.
Wow, well,
Yep.
I'm wrong anyway. Cool. Well, we'll just cut that out.
Leave it in.
Oh.